Hello again, my name is Rodney Reynolds and welcome to another video review. Today I will be looking at Colorcases X-Wing Chrome Silver case. Looking at this case from a distance, you can certainly see the theme here is X-Wing wings. You can see here at the front, of course, that theme is very clearly carried out throughout this case. Now let me just go over some of the key features on this particular case. In the front here we have 3 5 1/4 inch bays. We have 2 3.5 inch bays that are exposed. There's also 2 hidden bays inside the case. Right here we have the power button, the reset button, and down here is a little gate which houses 2 USB ports. At the very top of this case here, you will notice a very cool looking blowhole. Now what this blowhole does, of course, is vent the air out of the case. Very important, obviously, because all that air inside of your case has got nowhere to go except rise. Certainly very good for almost every case to have a blowhole at the very top to port all of that hot air. Now not only do you have a fan here blowing air out of the case, you also got a couple down here blowing air into the case. Now this is on the left hand side of the case. Both of these fans actually are 80mm fans. They are actually see-through and they are pretty quiet as well. If you're wondering how loud 2 of these 80mm clear fans are, well, have a listen. They are extremely quiet. At the back of the case here, we got a place to put a standard ATX power supply. Right here is where the keyboards, the mouse, the USB ports, and so on would be protruding through once you have the motherboard installed. And as well, you can put another fan if you want to. None comes standard here, but you can put a fan right here as well. Not only having those 2 on the left-hand side of the case and the 1 at the very top, you could also have 1 right here as well. Of course, once you do have your motherboard installed, you'll be installing things like your video cards, your sound cards, and so on, and this is where, of course, they would be sticking through. Now, also right here, we have a couple handy thumb screws. Either side of the case, you've got 4 of these, so that's great when you want to remove the side panels on the case. I've removed both side panels on this case just to show you how simple it is actually to remove this motherboard tray. Yes, this case does come with a removable motherboard tray, and I love cases that have these removable trays because it's very easy to install things like motherboards, coolers, anything that you want to install on the motherboard itself. And of course, we all know once everything is installed, you have your DVDs, your burners, your hard drives, all the cables and all that kind of stuff. Once you have all that installed, it's an absolute mess in here. It's great to be able to take that motherboard tray and remove it to do what you need to do. Now, all you would need to do to remove this tray, there's 3 screws. There's one right here. There's one a little further back here, right here, and there's also one down right here. Now, once all those 3 have been removed, there's a little tab here at the back of the case, right here, which you push in, you push the back of the case out, and you have the motherboard tray completely removed. Let me actually just slip this motherboard tray out just to show you how simple it is once you have those 3 screws removed inside the case. Go ahead here on this little tiny clip, push in like so, and just push it out, slide it out. You can see here, this is extremely simple, works really well, and that's it, it's back in. Of course, you can't remove it now because the latch here is caught. You can go ahead, push it in again, just to show you, push it back out, push it back in. So very, very interesting design here on the removal of this motherboard tray, and certainly does make it extremely convenient. And like all cases, you would need to have these connections right here. They go connected directly into your motherboard. Things like the speaker, the power switch, the power LEDs, the reset switches, the hard drive LEDs, and so on. Now also right here we have connections for those couple of USB ports in the front. These go connected directly into a motherboard that would support them. Also right here, something I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video review was the fact that there is a port in the front as well as 2 ports for the USB. You have audio on the front, you have a port for the mic, as well as auxiliary. These 2 here go plugged directly into your sound card. This case, of course, takes the full-size ATX motherboard. However, you're going to have to remove the motherboard tray in the case first to put it in. The reason why? Well, it's so tight in here that you're not going to be able to drop it in unless you remove that motherboard tray. You can see here, literally the motherboard here is almost touching the other side of the case. So that's something to note. You will have to remove the motherboard tray to install a full-size ATX motherboard, whether it be a Pentium 4 based or an AMD based motherboard. Also right here, you should make note of this. If you're thinking about using the very top bay, the 5 1/4 inch bay, you're not going to be able to if you have this blowhole closed. When it's open, you can squeeze one in there. However, if you decide to close it, of course you won't be able to if you have one installed. So if you really do not need to use this top bay, then just go ahead and, like I've done here, just install it into one of the other two. As I mentioned before, it is extremely tight in here. So tight, as a matter of fact, you can see here that there is no way for me to have a hard drive installed unless I have the hard drive up to the very top here. If you install hard drives down here at the bottom, you're going to void the controller for the floppy, and you cannot plug a floppy drive into here at all. Again, a very, very tight space. It depends though on the motherboard you're using. I'm using an Epox 8K3A Plus motherboard. If you're using that motherboard and this particular case and the floppy is around here, you're going to have issues with the floppy controller. Overall, this case does have some strong points. It's affordable, it has tons of fans, it has a removable motherboard tray, and it looks really cool. However, that's where it all stops, because inside of this case it is very confined. Certainly very confined if you're using a full ATX motherboard. Now if you're not, it's maybe not an issue, because of course the motherboard is 2 or 3 inches shorter than an ATX would be. However, using a full ATX motherboard as I was using, issues with the controllers, the floppy drive, the IDE controllers, possibly depending on which motherboard you use, and of course depending on which motherboard you use, you're running into problems as well with the large capacitors on the motherboard when you're inserting those 5 1/4 inch bays there at the very top. So certainly some issues here with this particular case. In saying all that, I give this case a good value. Again, my name is Rodney Reynolds, and this has been another video review. Be sure to check back very soon. I will have a brand new one for you then. Also check out my website at www.3dgameman.com, and while you're there, be sure to pop into the forums. You can go in there, register. Registration is free, and you can leave your own suggestions and comments in there, and of course find out all kinds of information about this product and about all the products which I video review. Until the next time, take care.